The top stories: Israel expressed commitment to further strengthen ties with Ethiopia. And the UN urged the need for making Africa's agriculture and food system a central agenda. Greetings and welcome to ABC World, the voice of Pan-Africanism. I'm Hikmat Tamam with the news for the hour. To stay with us. Musa Faki Mohammed, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, has expressed hope that the United States will reconsider its decision to withdraw from the World Health Organization. In a statement released Wednesday, the chairperson voiced his disappointment upon learning of the U.S. government's announcement to exit WHO. He emphasized that as a key member of the organization, the United States has played an instrumental role in shaping WHO's global health policies and norms over the past 70 years. Mohammed highlighted the U.S.'s significant support for the establishment of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, an African Union agency that collaborates with WHO and international partners to address health emergencies, monitor outbreaks, and manage pandemic responses across the continent. Now more than ever, the world relies on WHO to fulfill its mandate of ensuring global public health security as a collective responsibility, he said, and concluded by urging the U.S. government to reconsider its decision, stressing the importance of remaining part of the organization it helped to found. Ethiopia commences bilateral engagements to accelerate WTO accession. Ambassador Agab Kababo of Ethiopia held bilateral talks with the ambassadors of Japan, Russia, and the UK to accelerate Ethiopia's World Trade Organization accession. He expressed gratitude for their support and provided an update on Ethiopia's progress. Agab emphasized the importance of finalizing bilateral agreements and urged prompt negotiations based on revised offers that align with WTO guidelines for least developed countries. The ambassadors expressed a strong backing for Ethiopia's accession and pledged to review the offers and facilitate the process with a goal to finalize agreements before the 5th Working Party meeting in March 2025. They also offered technical support to Ethiopia. Israeli ambassador to Ethiopia Abraham Nuguse has praised Ethiopia's Green Legacy initiative, stating that Israel is devoted to collaborating with Ethiopia in this project. Approached by ABC World, the ambassador expressed his country's commitment to cooperate with Ethiopia in other sectors. The Gusar Nisa has sat down with the ambassador and take a look.
Ambassador Abraham Nuguse, Israeli ambassador to Ethiopia, we truly appreciate you for availing yourself for this interview. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you so much for coming also to our embassy.
The Green Legacy Initiative, embraced for 6 consecutive years, is a springboard to accelerate efforts on adaptation and climate resilience. How could Israel pitch into this worthwhile effort, do you think?
Yes, Israel has experience on the green legacy because when Israel was established, the area was a desert, and today Israel is green because using the green legacy program. We have a special organization for this called CACAL, or the planting and making green the country. That's a semi-government organization which is really helped to make Israel forest and putting every year we have a program of planting trees, and that tradition experiences is also using a modern technology, and that can be really been also, Ethiopia is also using this green legacy. We can exchange on this reality, and in my program, in my plan, is to bring expertise, experienced expertise from Israel, how they used the modern technology on advancing green legacy, and will meet together with the Ethiopian expertise. So when the two experts sit together and research and implement these green legacy program, I am sure Ethiopia also will be green. Naturally, Ethiopia is green, but that also will be very helpful.
Israel is well known for its deep irrigation technology since 1950s, and in order to help Ethiopian farmers to cope with arid climate and water scarcity, what sort of technology exchange has been done so far with this regard?
Yes, we have an organization, Mashav, which is an Israeli international agency for development and cooperation. And through this organization within the Foreign Ministry of Israel, we have here a mutual development, a mutual programs with the Ethiopian farmers. There are programs going through the Ministry of Agriculture, coordinating with the Ministry of Agriculture. There are private small agriculture entities who are also using these modern irrigation, this dripping irrigation system. In the south, in the north, in every area now is working with, but I'm not saying it is enough. We have to make it wider, bigger, all these programs. We have the capacity building programs where through Mashav, the Ethiopian agriculture, those who are interested in developing agriculture and using modern technologies are really go to Israel, travel to Israel, and went through the Mashav training programs. As we do for other African countries, also for Ethiopia. So they come here, they come to Israel, and they went through how to use the modern technologies and in agriculture, especially, as you mentioned, a dripping irrigation system. Of course, the capacity building also for other areas, for health, for cultural, and for human, for women and child development. And these other programs also, the people from Ethiopia going to Israel and trained and come back here, and they create their own projects.
Thank you so very much. We do appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming to our embassy.
The UN says Africa's food systems and agricultural transformation must be a central agenda at the upcoming AU summit. The UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Ethiopia, Ramiz Al-Akbarov, stressed the urgent need for climate finance in Africa, highlighting the continent's minimal contribution to global carbon emissions. Goshum Eliso for the following report.
The upcoming 38th Ordinary Session of AU Summit is slated to be held from February 15 to 16, 2025 at the headquarters in Addis Ababa. Talking to EBC regarding the agenda should be focused by the leaders in the summit, the UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Ethiopia emphasized agriculture and food systems has to be the central agenda.
Food systems transformation has to be central to the agenda. This is one of the few accelerators, along with the job accelerators or the SDGs. You know that for the Sustainable Development Goals achievement, we only have 5 years left. And for this, we need really to focus on food systems, we need to focus on job creation and on the resilience and on the durable solutions. So the African Union Summit and everything what is happening around that definitely will be looking into that particular transformative nature of it.
Khalid El-Tawi from UN Food Systems Coordination Hub is optimistic that African leaders will come up with inspirations as pressing challenges continue in the continent.
I believe that the African leaders are actually giving us a lot of inspiration by their commitment to food system transformation. We have a lot of challenges at the regional and level in Africa. We have 20% of the population suffering from hunger. This is double the percentage in any other region. The highest percentage in other regions is 9% or 10%. We are double this percentage. We have a lot of challenges. We are subject to climate change in Africa, while the continent is not really the major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Food security does not happen in isolation. It happens when we have the right environment, and the right environment needs the infrastructure, needs financing, and needs innovation. So we need to continue based on the guidance given by African leaders, but we need also to bring the private sector in a way that supports our priorities, national priorities, but we need also to bring innovation and other stakeholders, including the civil society, including farmers, to make sure that this is a very inclusive approach toward development.
Dr. Ramiz Al-Akbarov stressed the need to adapt climate change and new technologies to transform Africa's agriculture.
First of all, we need to adapt new technologies. Climate adaptation is a must, and it depends which part of the continent we're talking about. But everything from drip technology to the technologies which are and products which are allowing us to cultivate in the climate affected areas is very important. The continent needs to look for the solutions of the 21st century, which are technology and AI empowered. I'm talking about smart villages, I'm talking about smart farms, and everything what the most modern cutting edge technology can bring us. That's the only way we will stop playing a catch-up game and put the Africa where it belongs, in the leadership position in the world.
He reiterated the need for climate financing for African countries, the least contributors to greenhouse emissions.
What we do need is an access to the climate financing. The continent particularly, and also the Ethiopia, of course, we are not the big producers of the emissions at the carbon market, but we are not getting sufficient financing and sufficient resources. Africa does not produce that much of the pollution. Most of the pollution is produced elsewhere. So first of all, we need to be able to access climate financing. And what we need to do, we need to make sure that technology, crops and knowledge is available to the small farmers.
Al-Akbarov has commended Ethiopia's endeavors in fighting climate change.
And now moving on to the final news, researcher of African and Asian Studies at Addis Ababa University, Dachasa Abebe, said the victory of Adwa over the Italian colonial power in 1896 played a key role in reigniting Pan-African movement. The researcher also indicated that Ethiopia was the source of inspiration for the liberation of other African countries against colonialism from Western colonial powers. Shagoy Matao has more.
As a country never colonized by European powers, Ethiopia was the source of inspiration for the liberation of other African countries against colonialism. Ethiopia's victory in 1896 against the Italian invaders positions Ethiopia as a role model in the fight against colonialism, as well as in the formation of the Organization of African Union, the current African Unity. Talking to EBC World at this dialogue, researcher of African and Asian Studies at Addis Ababa University, Dachasa Abebe, indicated that the victory of Adwa was the source of inspiration for other African countries against colonialism from Western colonial powers.
Ethiopia, unlike the other African country, was successful in defending its sovereignty by its decisive victory that achieved at the Battle of Adwa, as we all know. Therefore, that can be considered as symbolic for the rest of the African countries, which probably on the process of resisting or either to liberate themselves after a long period of colonization, of course, for about 5 or more decades. From that point of view, we can say the Battle of Adwa, or the victory itself, can be considered as symbolic, as well as a source of inspiration for the other African regions in their movement against colonialism.
Pan-Africanism was initially initiated outside Africa by African diaspora due to political, economic, and other discriminations. The researcher pointed out that the Ethiopian victory helped the African diaspora to garner moral and psychological support for Pan-African movement.
The Pan-African movement there initially didn't raise the issue of African independence, now began to raise the issue of not only solving the problems of African diaspora, but achieving independence from European colonialism. Therefore, this needs not only ideological support or material or other forms of support, but also looking at Ethiopia as their ideal example or ideal symbol, and how it maintained its independence for long. Not only that, Ethiopia also began to act as a role model for them, and particularly during the time of Emperor Haile Selassie, began to provide different forms of support for the African movement for independence.
The researcher further called on African leaders to press ahead with mechanisms that make the continent economically powerful, peaceful, and educated.
If you have ample economic power, there is a tendency to be heard or to be influential in any part of global affairs. To have such a place in the global affairs, I think particularly the emerging African generation could be capable enough, particularly from science and technology point of view, from the education point of view, and other, instead of in a very local problems and situation immersed. Almost many of the African regions are immersed in very local and trivial problems. They cannot in a position to look far how to be out of this vicious circle local problem. Therefore, we need to be strong enough in our this particularly education system, this development and the like issue.
As a country never colonized by colonial powers, Ethiopia has still been playing a unique role for African freedom and
have reached to the conclusion. Now, before I go, a recap of the top stories once again. Israel expressed commitment to further strengthen ties with Ethiopia. And UN urged the need for making Africa's agriculture and food system a central agenda. Well, that's it for now. You have been watching ABC World, the Voice of Pan-Africanism. Goodbye and have a good time.